today is really a deep dive into 2 new ways that you can expand into the ACA this year. These are 2 huge opportunities. So we have invited our president, Mike Smith, back into the studio to share with us today. So Mike, you want to go right into it?
You bet.
All right, let's go.
All right. So I know there's a lot of our listeners who might not be actively involved in the under age 65 individual family plan marketplace, IFP. We love our acronyms. But I would tell you 2 things. One, the Affordable Care Act is not going away. So if you've been standing on the sidelines, it's time to move into action. And especially to those agents that are active in the Medicare marketplace, when you talk about a T65 program, I'm going to bring you a T26 program, a T50 program, a T60 program. I'm going to bring you marketing opportunities. I'm going to help you build your business, and I'm going to also give you the chance to keep them when they turn 65. And 2 of the ways that are allowed under the Affordable Care Act that are new developments. We love those cutting-edge ways to find niches that we can jump in and make some hay while the sun is shining. One of them is known as the family glitch. The other is now known as the Medicaid Redetermination, a.k.a. Medicaid unwinding. First, let's talk about the family glitch. These are, again, new special enrollment period options that are available in the under age 65 marketplace for agents to utilize throughout the year. So this is not just a fourth quarter play. It's super important to recognize. We always look for ways that we might be able to smooth out that peak and valley of production is so intense in the fourth quarter. Here's a way that you can help people throughout the year. The family glitch. Let's talk about what that was first. When the Affordable Care Act was launched, there was an unintended consequence. What happens, for example, is if an employer like the brokerage offers you, Gillen, a health plan, and it's affordable, considered by the definition of affordability, then that eliminates your wife and new baby from being able to receive a subsidized premium through the Affordable Care Act. That was a family glitch. And if you're struggling to buy new diapers and formula and all that other stuff that comes with being new parents, well, you might not be able to afford to add them to the health insurance plan here at the brokerage because the dependent cost is super expensive. So instead, you might look into the individual market and you find, my gosh, those premiums are equally as expensive. So what are we going to do? Yep. We can't just be without insurance. That's the family glitch. So throughout the years, when we would travel to D.C. and lobby, we would encourage the folks at CMS to fix the family glitch. This is simple. Come on, it's an affordability definition. Change that definition to now include individual and family plans. So now what's happening is you have a new SEP that's effective January 1st, 2023, that allows for folks who fit that example to get coverage through the individual family market and be able to apply subsidized premiums. So in essence, let's say that you're looking at a $700 a month premium for your spouse and new baby. Now you can go in there and maybe $300 of that will be paid for under a subsidized premium, or depending on your income, maybe all of that $700 premium will be paid for. And we've estimated that there could be anywhere around 5 to 5.5 million Americans that were impacted by the family glitch. These are new prospects for you that you can go and sign up for the ACA right now. So that's an ongoing SEP that will be available in 2023, 2024, and for hopefully many, many years to come. So it took 10 years to get it fixed. I'm glad it got fixed, though. So that's one reason why people should jump into the ACA marketplace.
When you're in your Health Sherpa dashboard, is there going to be an option? Like, what would a broker select? Do we have like a name for that yet in the marketplace portal?
Yeah, so there are different steps, and Health Sherpa, for those of the listeners who may not know, is simply a web portal where a person, an agent, can go and register themselves and sign up people under the Affordable Care Act. So they would actually get compensated. They would enter in their appointment ID number for Blue Cross Blue Shield or whoever they may be writing. And then once they are able to quote, and it's a very simple quote. You just put in the zip code, the family income, how many people are to be covered and what their ages are, and it'll provide instant quotes. And based on the income you enter, it'll also apply those subsidies. So Health Sherpa is a super easy to use quoting and enrolling platform for the ACA. So then when you get into the application process and you enter all the data, from their full address to, exactly what their zip code is and their social security numbers and all the things that are going to be required to submit an application, part of the questions include things like, do you have coverage available through an employer?
Right.
Do you have coverage available through an ICRA, an individual coverage health reimbursement arrangement? And it'll ask a series of questions, one of which will now include the family glitch situation that we just described.
Okay, cool. Good to know.
Yeah, so it's very easy. So that's one reason. The other reason is going to be more of a time-specific reason. It's known as the Medicaid Redetermination or Medicaid Unwinding. And I would encourage listeners to visit a website, medicaid.gov/unwinding, and they can get an entire library of information that's been pre-approved by CMS and has been available actually since the fourth quarter of last year. Information pieces that can be shared with people in the community about what this redetermination is all about, what the communications will be that have already started coming from the government and from the insurance companies. And specifically, the redetermination is something that was brought on by the Public Health Emergency Coronavirus Families Act back in 2020. And in that, folks who were on the borderline of being eligible for Medicaid or CHIP or some other type of social programs were granted leniency, and they were allowed to keep their coverage without having to be redetermined. We all know that, like with Medicare dual eligible SNP plans, that there's a process that the state will continue to verify whether or not they still fit those parameters. The same thing applies under the age 65 programs, where redetermination was basically ignored. And these people who literally would not necessarily qualify for Medicaid have been kept on the Medicaid roll for up to some 2 to 3 years. So we look at this as a taxpayer expense and think, wow, when we can redetermine these people and get them into a plan that's more suitable, then that's going to help the state and federal budgets, because that Medicaid is a partnership between the states and the feds. So if I'm a state elected official here in the great state of Texas, I want to have that redetermination now, because we're looking for money.
Yeah.
Ways that we can cut property taxes or whatever.
Sure.
And so that's the job of an elected official, is to manage the budgets. So what does this mean now? What it means is on April 1st, all these people that have been allowed to stay on Medicaid are going to be officially redetermined, and they'll be notified. And that notification will say that due to this redetermination effort, you will be no longer eligible for Medicaid. Or, in some cases, you have been determined to be eligible and your coverage won't change. How many people are in this bucket that are going to be redetermined? And we have some valuable resources to share, and we'll be glad to do that if our listeners will reach out to us to find them in every state, every county, and every zip code in the United States of America. And specifically, there's around 15 to 16 million people. I've even seen some counts up to as high as 18 million people. Let's just say there's a lot of people. Now, if we drilled that down, for example, into Texas, there's an estimated 2.5 to 3 million people that are going to be redetermined. And when that happens, there's going to be a lot of disruption. Not only will they lose their current coverage, but let's also think about it through the eyes of providers, the healthcare providers and the pharmacies.
Yeah.
I show up at Walmart today to fill my prescription, and I've got Medicaid. But starting on April 1st, that might not be the case. And the pharmacist may look at me in April and say, hey, sorry, but you don't have coverage. So that prescription is $100, and I don't have the money because I'm a low-income citizen. What am I going to do? I'm not going to buy the medication. I can't afford it. And then what happens? That chronic condition I have becomes an emergency room claim tomorrow. And then what happens? The cost of care goes up. Here we go again. All right. So the question then is, what do we do about this? And the answer is education. And our job in the food chain of life here is to bring these opportunities to our producers, our marketing partners, and help educate them on exactly what this means, and then help them to connect with those people who have been redetermined to help them with an ACA plan. So the second ACA special enrollment period is for Medicaid redetermination. And again, that website, we'll send it out, but it's medicaid.gov/unwinding. And from there, you'll be able to see the exact timeline that's already been established. It's a very impressive effort that's been put forth by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services to identify these people. And you know what's interesting is that the first step is to notify them by mail, but so many of these people don't have a permanent address. And what their address may have been back in 2020 may have changed 10 times. Unfortunately, some of these people are homeless, and they may not have an address. A second effort will be to call them. Well, how many times do people change cell phone providers or cell phone numbers in a low-income environment? So it's not like you're just going to call them up and send them a text. They may have had a phone number that's changed 10 times since 2020. And of course, my suggestion for our listeners here is, especially those who write dual eligible special needs plans in Medicaid and Medicare, is to go back to the resources that brought you that business. Now let's think about this. We're talking about community events. We're not talking about, here's a 1,000-piece mailer that you can look at and it'll cost you $500 and we'll help you pay for it with brokerage bucks. We can sure do that for a lot of products. This is not one of those markets that's going to respond to mail.
No.
So this is a sweat equity play.
Yeah.
These agents are going to have to get out in their community. They're going to have to visit the food banks. They're going to have to go into the low-income areas, maybe the Salvation Army, the United Way. We have here in Denton County Christian Community Care Action, CCA. There's a lot of different ways that you can get to this. In fact, I started researching, and I just went and I typed in community outreach programs. Get ready. I hope you have a couple of hours, because you're going to see so much data on thousands of organizations in your own backyard that have a need. They need clothes. They need food. They need volunteers. They need a lot of things. And now what they're going to need is somebody to help them to be redetermined for an Affordable Care Act plan. So that's another way that we're helping agents to grow their book of business. And we just filed a brand new continuing education course called Medicaid Redetermination. We'll be starting those courses on a regular basis right away. So we encourage people to just check their inbox or go on our website at thebrokeraginc.com and check our event calendar to schedule a call or schedule a webinar for their staff, for their agency, for their professional association, and help us to start spreading the word on this Medicaid redetermination.
All right, this is really good information. So for the folks that know about this, some of you may not even know about this, there's also an SEP that's been going around, I guess going on 2 years now. It's the 150% federal poverty level SEP. Basically, if their income is in that window between, they're not Medicaid, but they're not above 150%, you could enroll them year round. So we've talked about that on the podcast. So Mike, help us understand the difference between that one versus this Medicaid unwinding.
That's a great question. And it's basically kissing cousins because, obviously a lot of the people who have a federal poverty level income of less than 150% also probably have had Medicaid at some point in their life, maybe even now. And so as the ACA continues to expand, we have to just read the tea leaves. What is the government telling us? What is the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Service telling us by rolling out these new SEPs? They want us, the agent distribution channel, to get in front of people and find these uninsured people and give them a chance to enroll, not just during the open enrollment period in the fourth quarter, but throughout the year. It's a very simple thing. So again, three things. The one is we just talked about, the 150% of the federal poverty level. We also have the family glitch that we just talked about. And now we have Medicaid redetermination. So there's three smoke signals coming from the government that says, ladies and gentlemen, the ACA is not going away, and here is a way for you to be active throughout the year. Now, we talked a brief minute ago about Health Sherpa, and I told you you have to put in their household income in order to determine the level of subsidies. I don't necessarily encourage not telling the truth or misrepresenting things, but let me be frank and honest with you, as I always will be. When we see a lot of these folks who are in that period where they don't have coverage, for them to be able to go enroll in a plan and create an estimated projection of what their household income will be for that year or for the remainder of that year, if you put in certain numbers that are low enough, you're going to be able to use one of those SEPs, and the insurance companies will issue a plan. And then it's up to the taxpayer to go in there and adjust their income accordingly. So if they go through a period where they think, I'm only going to make X amount of money this year, and then they get a policy issued, then they find a job, it's probably a good idea to go back into their marketplace account, adjust their expectations on what their income will be, which will then, of course, lower the proposed subsidized premium. But it's not like the insurance company is going to take away their insurance product, is it? So we have that window of opportunity to help someone, and who knows where it goes from there. Our job is to find the uninsured and help them secure coverage.
It's so timely you mentioned that mechanism. I am literally dealing with this right now. Someone found my information because I'm FFM certified, and I don't know how they found me. But I had someone reach out to me just yesterday, exactly in that window. This was a person that's self-employed. They're younger, but they're over 26. And I went to Belinda to verify basically what you just described, which was I said, this person's income really last year with their reported income it fits in this window. Now, I don't know what they're going to make this year, right? But this person missed the open enrollment. Mm-hmm. So I basically asked her, I'm like, okay, but can't I just use this SEP and then just make sure to educate her that, hey, this could get you in. You can get insured, and then if you do really well with your business this year, if your income goes up, it's not like you're going to lose your insurance.
Right.
You just may need to adjust, your reporting to make sure you're getting the right subsidy, but it's a way in. And I think it's important that we explain to brokers, just as Mike was saying a minute ago, there's really an ethical way to do that, and then there's the bad actors. But what we're describing is a pretty honest, ethical route that there's probably a lot of people that fit into. And if you try to be too, that's where it's, I guess, a little bit of a gray area. What does CMS and, Health and Human Services, what do they want? They want to expand the ACA.
That's right.
They've made that very clear. So this is a way in. That's all I'm trying to say.
Well, you bring up a really good point, and it's the Help on Demand feature at healthcare.gov. So when a broker goes through their federally funded marketplace training, there's an opportunity when you register or re-register each year that you can enroll yourself in what's called Help on Demand. Simply put, that's a way when people go on to healthcare.gov and they realize real quick they're over their skis when it comes to insurance knowledge and they need help. They can put in their zip code and they can hit a button, and within a second or two, you will get a lead or your name will pop up. It's a lead program. It's a free lead program from the government, okay? And if the agents that are involved in the ACA aren't taking advantage of that, they're missing the boat. I registered myself to see if it works, and it's not uncommon that I'll get a few phone calls every month. And so it's exactly what you just described. Let's put a face on those people. because those uninsured people, generally speaking, the vast majority of them are 30 years of age or younger. They may be gig workers. That dude that you heard play at the jazz band last night that's making $25,000, loves music, but isn't necessarily crushing it at the bank, right?
Yeah.
Or those folks that are in a minority population.
Yeah.
Because they've never had anybody talk to them about health insurance. They only know go to the emergency room, 911. And when we're able to go out there and help those people with a product that in most cases is going to cost them $10 or less, and they just they didn't know. It's a lack of education. Who better to inform them than an independent agent, a professional, licensed, and certified independent agent?
Absolutely. And I really hope that this encourages you folks that, first of all, those of you who are already in the ACA, and let's say, the ball just hasn't gotten rolling, you don't feel like you're making a lot of progress or momentum, telling you what, take advantage of the information we're sharing with you today, because there's a ton of opportunities. Let's say you just got your a lot of people, they find out about an opportunity, they'll get their contracts mid-November or something, and they feel like, oh, well, I missed it. Mm-hmm. Nope, not this year.
No, year round.
You've got lots of opportunities to help lots of folks who, just like Mike said, they're everywhere. And now with this family glitch thing, you're not just talking about those kind of people. You're talking about families who even do have a sole provider, a mom or a dad that is working full-time and does have benefits, and even yet they may be people you can help.
Right.
It's awesome.
Well, it's a great opportunity, and I just encourage people to take advantage of it. I'll wrap up with this. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, they manage both the Medicare and also the Affordable Care Act. And we've had a lot of issues with things in the Medicare world lately, creating additional onerous restrictions, like including agents and brokers in the definition of third-party marketing organizations. There's scope of appointments. Gosh, all the things that we have to do just to be compliant with Medicare. A lot of those things don't do they're not involved that way in the ACA. They don't have scope of appointments. There's not call recording requirements. And people need this coverage. It's super easy to go and quote and enroll somebody. So if you're not working in the ACA right now, you're missing the boat. You can make good money doing it. You can help a lot of people at the same time, and you're building your pipeline for more families when they cross over into Medicare. You've already been working with them for years, so it's silly not to be in the ACA.
Absolutely. So everyone listening, your call to action that we could give you here is if you go to thebrokeraginc.com, first of all, if you don't have an account, right there on the homepage, you just click Get Started, and we can instantly approve you. But if you already do have an account in our website, just log into the broker link, and right there on your dashboard, you'll see a tab that says ACA Resources. So make sure you click that, and Belinda and the team have assembled a great hub right there of information. You can learn about the carriers, you can learn about certification. All the info you need is right there in one place. So we definitely encourage you to check that out, and then we have a wonderful staff that can help you get ready to go.